I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
There
up.
we are.
Here's a day
Nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
Erin Taormino, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
So, Erin, you've been riding horses for a very long time. You've made a heck of a name for yourself. But one of the things that I'm so proud of you on was you got out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And this is your second time going to the world's greatest horseman. And this year you made the finals.
Yes, we did.
Tell me about that. I'm excited to hear about this.
It was really cool. You know, when the thought of entering World's Greatest Horseman started, it seemed impossible. And especially because with the one event of steer stopping, I mean, I never picked up a rope until I was later in life. And so it seemed almost out of reach. It seemed like it would almost be impossible, especially after watching, you watch all those guys that do that World's Greatest Horseman. I mean, it's 4 events, 1 horse, and it's kind of a marathon, and you have to be solid in every event. You can't really stub your toe anymore anywhere. You won't get there. So I've watched it for a lot of years, and it's always been a dream or a goal. And when I finally decided to do it, it was very stressful and very challenging. And a lot of times I probably threw my rope in the dirt and was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever done. I don't think I can do this. But I think with everybody that's in the horse industry, you're going to find those trials and tribulations, and you just keep going. And it got a little better and a little better, and I don't know, peaks and valleys. And finally, I entered last year, and it was a little bit rough. When I first started roping, I don't think I'd rope in front of anybody but you or Jackie. And even that was embarrassingly, humblingly.
Well, and what was hard about that too is because a lot of people that all help team roping, they're coming out here and they're pretty relaxed about it. They might be nervous.
Yeah.
You weren't nervous because a lot of the people that I have that are nervous, they may not ride very good. And so to be able to go through that trial of, being able to ride your horse fast enough and being able to get that adrenaline up, like that's not your case. This was just the fact that, like, I think the pressure it looked like you put on yourself was there was a deadline.
Yeah, there was a big deadline.
You had the horse going on, but here pretty quick, you had to do this in front of the whole world.
Yeah.
And so your stress level was way more than anybody that I've ever helped.
Yeah. No, there was all forms of stress. It was crazy. But it was awesome. And I mean, to come from last year, and I just tried to survive, you know what I mean? And I did, and it was good. Obviously, I didn't make the finals last year, and then this year I changed horses and started way sooner. I didn't maybe put myself up against such a deadline this year as I did last year, and I made a commitment to myself that I was going to pick up a rope every single day, and I think I almost did that. I think there was probably a couple of days in there that I didn't, but one way or another, I did pick up a rope every single day, whether I roped the sled or the dummy or pen roped, which is miserable, by the way. I don't know if anybody's ever pen roped, but that's
how we all used to start.
That is not enjoyable. Okay, that is
about the time you get a shot and they turn around and
then they go the other way.
Yeah,
I mean,
lots of fun.
Oh gosh,
that's how we all started.
That was terrible. It was a terrible idea.
Before the 4-wheelers and the Smarties, you can actually keep control of where they're going.
I believe there was numerous days I texted Jackie and be like, "Have you ever pen roped?" She goes, "Oh yeah, lots." I'm like, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like, I'm not going to enter World's Greatest if this is what it entails, But then no, it got better and better, and then I went in there and I roped the neck on it, but I roped it.
So for everyone, including me, I'm just getting started with following this. With you coming here and you and Jackie becoming good friends, I've become a huge fan. And even though I'm still learning a lot of this stuff myself, but just to catch everyone up, the world's greatest horseman, how many events do you do? How many horses can you ride? And what do you feel like? What event is it that's your strength? And what event it feels like may keep you up at night?
Oh God. So it's 4 events, it's 1 horse, it's 1 bit, and obviously 1 rider. So
what 4 events?
So the 4 events are, it is the reining, where you run a reining pattern, you run and spin and slide and do all the circles. The cutting, where you have a herd of cattle and you cut 1 cow, you have 2.5 minutes to cut 3 cows. And then the fence work, which is probably what defines cow horse. It's adrenaline and a little bit crazy, and it can make you or break you. And then the steer stopping, which is by far the one that keeps me up at night. Okay. The other ones are stressful, but that one takes it to a whole new level. So, yeah, but those are the 4 events. And when you enter 1 horse and you have 1 bit, and you stick with that through the whole deal. So
awesome.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. And I tell you another thing too, is like, what is, I'm going to ask you the question too, like, what's your biggest futurities? But I've gotten to go to the world's greatest horseman. I think the second year I've got to go watch it. This is the first time I got to watch steer stopping.
Yep.
And then you've let us come the last 2 years, and I've got to watch the snaffle bit.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, the electricity in this building is like nothing I've ever seen. To get a ticket, if we didn't know you, I would never be able to get a ticket, because they sell out by months ahead of time. At Will Rogers.
Yeah. So I think World's Greatest crashed the site this year.
Yeah. And how big is that venue?
Oh man, I knew the numbers. I did know the numbers at one time, but I would be lying right now if I said how many were in that Will Rogers. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
I wish I had.
It's not as big as a Thomas and Mack. It's
No.
not 18, but it's a lot bigger than like Lone Star here in
Yes.
Stephenville.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
I would hate to guess, but I don't know if it's between 5,000 and 10,000.
That's what I was going to say. I thought it was between like 5,000 and 8,000, somewhere in there. So
and you can't get a ticket.
Sold out.
It's so much fun to watch.
It's amazing.
What is some of the biggest fraternities you go through throughout the year, and how long are you gone for at each one of these fraternities?
So our biggest show for 3-year-olds is a Snaffle Bit fraternity, and it's in Fort Worth. And we're there. We move in, and the way they have that schedule is, I mean, we're only 45 minutes from Fort Worth, but we basically move in and stay, because the schedule and just all the events they have at that show, our timeline is too scrunched. Like, we don't even have time to drive home. We might get 45-minute naps. So we're going to stay there and do that. And we're there for, I mean, it's a solid 3 weeks. We move in and we are there for 3 weeks. So, and then
what are the hours?
Oh man.
Like, what is your hours in those 3 weeks? Like, when to sleep? When do you usually don't sleep? Is there a time when, do you have some time off where you can catch up on sleep, or is it just 3 weeks where this is as grueling, like almost being like a Navy SEAL?
I mean, it's a little bit daunting at times, because depending on what you take for horses. So if you take 3-year-olds and then you take show horses, the way that schedule lines out is, when we're not showing 3-year-olds, we're showing older horses. And when we're not showing older horses, we're back to showing the 3-year-olds. And so it starts winding down, and we might get like longer hours of sleep near the end of the show. So maybe after 2 or 2.5 weeks, it'll, the classes will start to settle down. And if we take customer horses, like non-pros and stuff, so we just kind of throw them in the mix too. So, I mean, when we're schooling for the rein work at nights, we'll start, depending on how many horses you have, you start at 10 o'clock at night. And if you have 5 or 6 or 7 of them, you're going to count on 5 or 6 or 7 hours. And then wherever that takes you, and if you draw up and the first set of the morning, the show starts at 8, I mean, you might catch a couple hours of sleep if you're lucky, or just a nap and a shower, maybe 30 minutes of a nap, and you get a shower and refresh and change your clothes and go. That's pretty much how that's.
So you're averaging an hour a horse at night on your training.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And then train all day. And then the
show all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and go catch a nap if you can here or there. Usually at the Snaffle Bit fraternity, what we do is we set up a room. We get an extra tack stall, and we put a couch in it, and you can go in and close the door.
I didn't know what that extra room was going to be like for when people start getting insomnia. Let's just lock them in there for a little while until they come back around, and then let them back out.
It's like the quiet room, like the padded room for us. Start losing our minds a little bit.
Wow. So, because like rodeo and ours is different. We're gone a long time, so we get a lot of, but like we may be at a rodeo sometimes for maybe as little as an hour.
Right.
Get out, warm up, rope,
On to the next one.
wash them off water and put them on the next one.
Yeah.
When you guys are there talking like 2 to 3 weeks, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think, and probably, I don't know because I haven't gone down the rodeo trail, but it's probably all the same exhaustion in different forms, but you're tired just the same because you all have to throw yours in and haul butt to the next rodeo, whereas we just set up shop and stay exhausted in the same place with an hour or two of sleep a night.
Yeah, no, yours is a lot different because we'll usually have somebody driving that we trust. So
Got
you're
it.
able to get. Now you don't get a lot of sleep, when you're bouncing up and down the
Sure.
rig, but you learn to manage.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so what is your biggest fraternities throughout the year?
So-
and what time of year are they? So like the snaffle bits in
The snaffle bit's in October. And then we go to the derbies, which is 4 and 5 year olds. So then we have the Stallion Stakes, which is in Las Vegas in this year. It's the beginning of April, and we're there for almost 2 weeks. And then from that one, our next biggest major aged event is the Derby in June in Scottsdale, Arizona, at Westworld, and we're there for 2 weeks again. And then after that, those are probably the ones that pay the most. There's a lot of amazing events now for the cow horse, like the Run for a Million that we have to qualify for, which is incredible. But the length of time of that show isn't quite as long. It's only a few days we're there for, but it backs up to another one of our bigger fraternities that the Stock Horse Association puts on. And so we end up being in Vegas. If you qualify for the Run for a Million and you do the stock show, you're there for 2 weeks
the
again.
Run for the Million, isn't that in the summer, July?
It's August.
August.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so we're gone for most of the month of August between our pre-fraternity in Fort Worth. And then if you make the Run for a Million, and then you go to the National Stock Horse Association, which is also in Vegas. So I think we're home for maybe a week in August.
And then didn't Teton give you guys an opportunity
Yes.
at the American?
The
as
American.
well?
Yes. The
So
top
how do you
five.
get qualified for that?
Well, so what with that event is it's the top 5 money earners for every year. So whoever wins the most from 23, the top 5 riders get qualified to go for that. And that is an incredible event. And that has just brought cow horse, in my opinion, to a whole new level and a whole new audience of people that didn't even maybe know what we did.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
It's amazing.
They're doing great.
They're
for
doing
the
a
industry.
fabulous job. It's really incredible.
So with you being gone that much, being a wife, I mean, you must have you and Jackie Crawford probably have to have probably the best husbands in the world.
I mean,
they must both be so patient and so understanding,
so willing.
so willing.
I feel like this is a loaded question, Charlie. I don't know if there's a right answer.
I really like to put myself right along with Anthony.
I love it.
I'm nowhere close to him. That dude's a stud. But I just like somehow throwing myself in there in the middle of it because that stuff's tough when it comes to
It is.
reversing roles in one way.
It really is tough. And I mean, Jackie and I've talked about it a lot. And I know when she goes down the road, she's taking the kids with her and stuff. And we take West with us as much as we can. But at the same time, my hours at the barn and when I show are so long that it makes it hard, and you have to have someone behind you that can pick up the pieces and be there, because the mom guilt is real. It's a real thing, and I know Jackie and I've talked about it a lot. It's not easy what we do, but when we're both so driven and focused, you're thankful for the people you have behind you. My mom and dad come down all the time. They were just here for World's Greatest Horseman and stayed and took him to school, and it was pretty awesome. Yeah. So, but yeah, you have to have a support crew because we damn sure can't do this alone. It's
So when you guys are off at some of those, it looks like some of these events, the ones that look like they're further away,
mm-hmm.
it's almost in the summertime.
Yeah.
Where you're not having to pull them out of school. Because that's
right.
another thing too, is like, so how old is Wesley?
He's 6.
He's 6?
He just turned 6. Yeah.
And so first grade?
Kindergarten.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and it'll get tougher the further it goes. But, that at least it's easy to be, at least some of your stuff is in the summertime where it's not as bad. But the ones that are during clinics, how do you work that?
You're right. The summer events are easy because he can just come tag along with us, and we just, if my mom and dad can't come down, we have a really great support system of other girls that have taken up and helped us. So he just kind of comes along, and he's a horse show kid, and we maybe see him first thing in the morning and don't see him again till later at night. He just runs around with his crew, and it's awesome now that he's getting older to do that. The show coming up in April at the Stakes, it's a little more of a challenge. We're still not 100% sure what's going to happen there. Because with him being in school and he's in the public school system, we can't just pull him out. They frown upon that. So we can't just pull him out and bring him along. So we make some phone calls and see if we can beg someone to stay with him for a few days. And then what we've done in the past too is pulled him out for a day or two and flown him in for like finals weekend, so he might fly in on a Thursday, miss a day of school. And that helps a lot. But yeah, it's you find whole new struggles from when they're a baby to when they get older. It all kind of gets easier, but it gets harder too, so.
That's what Jackie and I have to do, because that's the one thing she explained to me one time. I was going to take Creed. I don't know, he's like 2 or 3 years old. And I was going to take him up to the Northwest with me when I left here in August for a couple of weeks and then come back. And she lost her mind. And she was sending, and I talked her into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just thinking, I'm a dad. Surely he's all right to go with his dad, for a couple of weeks. And she was like, I don't know about that. So anyway, I kind of talked her into it. And I remember she was doing a clinic in Utah. And I think I got 8 miles down the road. And I start getting these text messages of like, I'm not even sure who was on the other line here. I didn't sign up for this. This is not what we agreed upon. I'm like, who's got your phone?
Who is this?
This is nothing like how we have, as she's ever talked before.
Yeah.
She was like a whole nother person.
Yeah.
I think she had to postpone her clinic because she couldn't quit crying.
Mm-hmm.
Like she couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no big deal.
Yeah.
Turned around.
Yeah.
We brought him back, and then I left. But I remember a few years later, because now it was like, all right, now she's going to rodeo. I'm retiring.
Yep.
And she was talking to Shatta Brazil about it. And she talked about how when Shatta was going to make the finals barrel racing, she told Trevor, she's like, all right, I'll do this, but I have the kids.
Yeah.
And we're not arguing about it.
Yeah.
You're not going to get them.
Yeah.
Like if I'm a rodeo, I have to have them, because I can't. It's not like guys where we can go do other things and then come back.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about that. Not really much that day. it was a little bit more throughout time and stuff. But when she talked about how with Shatta, it was like, there's just no way that I'll be able to do my job if I know my kids ain't there.
Yeah.
And so like the mother stuff you're talking about, that stuff's real.
And
I poked the bear on, you don't jack with mama bear. With that, and I unintentionally did it.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything. I was just thinking I was going to be a dad.
Yeah.
And
just take him.
Yeah. And actually take burden off of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too early.
Too soon.
We weren't there yet.
Yeah, too soon. Yeah, and that, honestly, the older he gets, that part is easier for me. I am finding it easier now that he's in 6 and he's in school and he's getting more independent. It's easier for me to leave him now, and I don't worry as much. But same thing, like when he was little and he was a baby, that was really hard not to have him there for any length of time. We took him as much as we absolutely could when he wasn't in school, because the stress is something else that goes a whole new level in different stress versus just on top of what we already do, the showing and the training and the hours. You're exhausted there, but then your mind's over here, and so you have to learn to kind of compartmentalize too on what the task at hand now is, and that know that they're okay over here. And it's hard.
Jackie was telling me a rodeo story, because we have to do the same thing also in April, because that's when clinics are red hot. It's like hay season for clinics. Everyone's cracking back out. So I stay real busy in April. And then she goes out west to go to all the California run rodeos and stuff like that. So we actually have to pull Creed out for a month, because otherwise we can't have that many absences for him to be able to go into the next grades. We actually have to pull him out and put him back in.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And, when you're talking about different stress and this and that, Jackie told me when she flew to Redmond, Oregon, they blew an axle on their trailer, and they were up. I think they were up in Thursday at Redmond, Oregon, and Saturday morning at Oakdale, California. And I forgot what reason why they had the axle there, but I don't know if it's some government, whatever it was, where that they had to maybe be permitted to unload the axle. I forgot what it was. I forgot what it was. It was something, it sounded something as retarded as like the fact that somebody wasn't qualified to take an axle off the trailer. So they had to buy, I forget how they did it. They bought a trailer on Friday night.
Oh my
because
God.
they were up the next morning in Oakdale, California. And they could only find a 4-horse trailer. And they had 5 horses because the trailer the axle went out was a 5-horse.
Oh no.
So they had to put 1 horse in with somebody that was headed down there in a stock trailer, and then bought a 4-horse trailer, moved all their stuff in this trailer, finally got it finalized. I don't know what time on Friday. I don't know what time they all got to leave. It sounded like midnight. I think it's 6 hours down there.
Holy moly.
And they drove all the way down there, and Journey, that's when Journey got sick. And she threw up all night long in that bus.
Oh.
And she said she got there, I don't remember, a little after 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And she roped at 8:05 that morning in slack. And I talked to her, and she's like, I've got to go and clean that bus. There's throw up everywhere. It stinks in there, and I'm exhausted, and I've got puke over me. And I'm like, I would have retired. You would have seen
I would have just quit.
I would have quit. All my stuff would have been for sale in Oakdale, California. I would have sold my head horse, my rig. I would have got a plane ticket and flew back home, and you'd have seen where Charlie Crawford was done rodeoing.
Immediate retirement.
No way am I that tough to be able to rodeo with all that. It was hard enough
God.
being in the rig with 3 other team ropers when we were buddy. Like, now one of them is going to be throwing up on. No,
Not an infant that's puking.
Yeah. I said, man, my hat's off. You're way tougher than I am.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah. I did. I told her that's a whole new level.
Mm-hmm.
So you came from the grain farm of Saskatchewan, Canada.
Yep.
Correct?
I grew up in a small town, Grenfell, Saskatchewan, Canada. Lived there for 18 years.
So growing up there,
Mm-hmm.
what was your interest as a kid? Horses. Also, were you a hockey player?
I loved hockey. I didn't play on a team per se, but I skated my whole life. I figure skated for years. Played shinny, which is rec hockey. Played that a lot.
Describe that.
I don't even know if I remember how to describe it. It's like you have a stick and you have a puck and you don't have any equipment on, and it's just chaos on the ice. Yeah, it's just fun.
Nice.
It's just you make up rec teams and you just get after it.
When I was in high school, I remember we had floor hockey.
Yep, we played that too.
That was more fun for me than football.
Yeah. Floor hockey was
didn't
fun.
have to skate. You just,
Nope.
like I say, you had the.
Yeah.
You just checked somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just got a good. And what was funny is like, I think about that team rope, and I'm like, you know what? If they had floor hockey one day where all the team ropers, just like put a team together, I'm like, I wonder who would get smoked the first. And I'm like, I bet it's probably me, But it was so much fun because you didn't have to skate or nothing, and you would I think they put the goals underneath the basketball hoop.
Yep, that's exactly what we did in school.
That was by far the funnest thing I'd ever played.
But
I could see where the interest is.
Yeah, no, I loved hockey, and we grew up on skates. We had ponds at home that we would clear off a spot, and we would skate all the time. Yeah.
So skating was a big deal growing up.
Big deal. Yeah.
And then when did the horses come into play?
Man, I always remember riding from when I was little. I did 4-H a lot, the light horse program. I open showed, just like, you go to your local fairs or whatever, and did every event, everything from English to halter, all the Western events to every game horseback you could possibly enter and play. I did. So I did. I loved horses. I grew up. I always remember riding horses, and in every sport I could play. I played all the sports: baseball, volleyball, track, cross country. All the things.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Between being able to check someone and then skate.
Yeah. I don't think my mom and dad were ever home. They were on the road.
Busy.
Yeah. Stayed busy.
I love it. That had to help a lot too, doing that many events on the horses as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where in the team roping side of things, that's what, Jackie talks a lot about the speed events that she did as a young kid, the pole bendings, running the barrels and doing all that stuff, and how good that is for your riding. So then that way, when you do get to where you're roping, that you're a step ahead of a lot of other people. And that had to probably help as you started.
I think so, and there was lots of times when I remember I was too little to probably saddle my own horse. I would just push my pony up against the fence and jump on bareback and just haul ass across the fields, surrounded by grain land. So you could go forever.
Go for a long time.
Yeah. And just run. And there was lots of times I came walking home too. I was mad at that pony. Mad at that pony.
So when you left Canada, when did you decide you was going to be a trainer? And what was the steps that you had to go to from when you left?
So that's funny. I always said I wasn't going to make my hobby my career, and I was very adamant about that. And when I graduated high school, I immediately moved to Alberta, Canada, where I went and rode with a guy there and showed my last year youth in the all around. I got heavy into quarter horse showing and the all around. So I did hunter under saddle, I did Western pleasure, I did the showmanship, I did all the things as far as that entails. And when I graduated high school, I moved to Alberta, finished out my youth career. I had a really good youth horse that I showed at the Congress and did really well on. In my last year youth, I sold him at the Congress and met some people in Texas that also did the all around. And so they offered me a job. And so when I sold my horse at the Congress, I went home, packed my stuff and moved to Texas and showed the all around with them a little bit there and did the pleasure horses and stuff. And I got pretty bored pretty fast. And I love Texas, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to stay there. It was a little bit of a different job and the people were a little different. And so I moved on from that kind of fast, but I wasn't ready to go home. So from being there with them, I had met a vet and his wife, and they found me a job working for a cutter. And so I was young and probably dumb and just loped horses. I'm like, how hard, like, this is not a hard job. You lope horses in a circle and get paid. I'm like, this is easy. Who doesn't want to do this? So I went and did that for a while.
Now, where were you at this point?
So I went to Babcock Ranch and Del Bell was there. And so I loped horses for Del Bell for probably like 4 or 5 months, something like that. And at that time, Ron Rawls was there too.
Was this in Alberta?
No, this was in Gainesville, Texas.
Back down in Texas.
Yeah, back down in Texas. And Del left and went and did his own thing, and I got to know Ron really well. And he's like, well, you can ride under me. So I just stayed there and started working under Ron, and I stayed with Ron. He moved from Babcock to do his own thing, and I worked for him for 5 years, I think, 4.5, 5 years. And that's kind of how that was my first experience with cow horse, was with Ron Rawls. I knew what cow horse was, but I was an all-around kid, and did the pleasure and the English and stuff. And I really didn't really have cow horse on my radar at all until I kind of fell into the job with Ronnie. And I was with him for 4.5 years, or almost 5 years, I guess. And yeah, kind of fell in love with it. But I just rode a bunch of colts and stuff.
So no college?
No college.
So you went to the School of Hard Knocks.
Mm-hmm.
Which to me, there's not a lot of wrong with that, because I think you find out what your passion is a little sooner.
Yeah.
I think where it's so hard, I think for a lot of kids is, at 18 years old,
mm-hmm.
that's when you got to pick what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So you got to take all this college debt, and you're hoping that when you're done graduating,
that you have something you can use.
Or that you pick the right thing.
Yeah.
That you're not like, you find out at the end, like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. At least when you went there, you found out this is what you want to do.
Yeah, and when I graduated,
without college debt.
Well, that's it. And I graduated high school. All my friends went to college, every single one of them, and I felt pressure that I probably should go to college, but I was so horse crazy, and I had a really great all around horse. I loved him, and I loved showing him, and I was doing really good on him. And I was like, why am I going to give up this last year that I have to show him and go to college, and I don't know what I'm going to do? I was probably going to go party. Honestly, Let's be real. That's what it was going to happen. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to show and I wanted to ride, and I didn't want to waste the money that I probably didn't even have to put into college at that time for not knowing what I wanted to do. So I went and horse showed. And then I was like, well, maybe I could go back to college for this or that. And when I sold my youth horse, and I always said I didn't want to make my hobby my career, but I couldn't stop doing my hobby. So one thing led to another. And
I think there's a difference also after a while too, is when the hobby becomes a passion.
Yeah,
then
I agree.
You're able to find out if you can monetize from it, and you can get really good at it. And then, when people talk about, if you do what you love, you don't ever work a day in your life.
I mean,
I don't know about that.
I don't know about
because
that. But
if you're going to dip your toe into the Western industry and make a living at it, it's a job.
There's been a lot of days where
hours.
I think I think
you better love it.
You have to love it, because there's a lot of days that we scratch our head and wonder why the heck we're doing this. And if we're supposed to be doing this, and if we pick the right career path, because it's not easy. I mean, but then I think most of us that have dove off into it are hard-headed enough that we just keep going.
So who all did you ride with once you started riding under mentors and being a loper and an assistant and things like that? Also, too, how much did they try to warn you?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because, when I was growing up, they're like, you don't want to team rope for a living. These guys are all broke.
Yeah.
And
it
didn't matter what they said.
I don't think any of them warned me. That would have been nice, maybe. Gotcha. I don't think any of them warned me. But I worked for Ron Rawls, and I worked for two people. So I did have someone tell me once, which was probably some of the best advice that I ever got, was if you decide that this is what you want to do for a living, you pick two people that you respect and are successful, whether it be at horse training or business or whatever. You look at their careers and their career path and where they've gone and what they've done. And when you go work for them, don't go for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, because you don't really learn, for our industry and what we do, you don't really learn their program until like the third year in. Then you start getting the consistency. And in the cow horse and what we do, consistency is key. That's what makes the horses is a consistency. There's no right or wrong answer when you're dealing with another animal, right? Like it doesn't, everybody's program all wants the same end result, but it's the consistency on how you get there. There's no right or wrong. So they always told me is you pick somebody that you respect their program, you respect what they've done, and there's no right or wrong answer to that either. But when you go there, you settle in and you take the good with the bad and you put your head down and you work your butt off until you get everything out of that program that you need, and then you move on. So I only work for two people. I worked for Ron Rawls for 4.5 years, and I worked for Todd Bergen for 5 years. And that's what I did. And it wasn't easy. I don't think that's a very easy route, especially maybe being a young girl in a male dominant industry. But if you want it bad enough and you put your head down and you work your butt off, anything is possible.
How hard was it to get to be underneath of those? Because that's not, I would think the list to probably work for some of the top trainers in the world, that's not real easy. So they've seen something in you. So how were you able to get up underneath of that much knowledge? I
feel like I just kind of stumbled into the job with Ron. I got pretty lucky there because I was this young, naive, inexperienced person. I mean, I could ride and I could ride really good, but not in the cow horse. I mean, I'd never done the cow horse, so I had no idea. I was just basically going on horsemanship skills that I had learned from years past, which I guess goes a long way at times. So I kind of was lucky and fell into the job with Ron, and he just kind of took me under his wing and was amazing. And then the job with Todd, Anthony and I got that job with him. Both of us got that job with him through a friend of a friend. We have one of our closest friends worked for Todd for 5 years before us, or 4 years, something like that. And he put in a good word for us and actually sent Todd some videos of me riding. And that's how we got that job with Todd. So we really, that was kind of who we knew to get that job. So
how long did you work up underneath Todd?
5 years.
And Ron for
4.5.
4.5. And then after you worked for Todd,
mm-hmm.
What gave you the confidence that you felt like that you were going to branch out on your own, that you were going to be a trainer, that you were going to start going head to head with some of the best guys in the world, and like you said, in a male dominant industry?
I don't know if confidence is the word that I would use for what I had, but I had a goal in my mind that I wanted to achieve. And it's really unnerving when you go from being an assistant to being an open rider, because now, I could probably do Todd's program really good for Todd. And I learned from two of the best in the industry, and I could do their programs amazing for them. But then I had to figure out their programs and how it fit me. And then I had to back it up and answer it and make it successful for me. And so it was really nerve-wracking and stressful, and probably, I'm trying to think of the word. Like, I don't know if I had a lot of confidence I had confidence, obviously, or I would have never done it, but I had a goal and a dream of where I wanted to get to, and I didn't know if I was ready or not, but the opportunity arose to go to Gardner Quarter Horses, and ready or not, this is what I need to do, you know? There was probably a lot of doubt, like, oh my gosh, am I ready? Can I do this? I don't know. But when you're stubborn and hard-headed and you have an opportunity to present you're not going to turn it down. So, I mean, it's like the door opened and I was like, well, heck yeah, let's go and jump in with both feet. Whether I thought I was ready or not, I knew where I wanted to get. And the only way for me to get there was to go there. Yeah. So that's what I did.
It's amazing when you get thrown in there, you got, there's one thing to be trained. And then another thing is now you got to figure out how to think for yourself.
Yeah. That was probably one of the hardest things. Cause I didn't have, someone there helping me along, no, you did, do this, it'll be fine. I'm like, well, get myself in a pickle. And I'm like, okay, well, great. Now what? Yeah. You can only make so many phone calls.
I think what would, in my mind, be the hardest thing for me is if I did have the knowledge y'all had and I did get on my own and then now you got to start learning how to like handle employees.
Yeah.
Now you have to have a certain amount of help because if you don't have people underneath of you cleaning the stalls and tending to some, now you're not able to get done what you need to get done.
Then you're spread too thin, right? And you can't do your job that you need to.
Who really wants to herd turds, for a living, so, to be able to, there's only so much you can motivate someone to do a very boring job. There's a lot more stress and it's almost sometimes just getting to train the horses in one perspective is almost the easiest part.
It is.
That is the easiest part. To run a business, it has to be
100%. And
like Ken Bray would say, you learn in business, you start getting a lot of bloody noses along the way. And
100%.
I could see that one being probably my biggest one.
100%. When we, there was a lot of times which a lot of people, when you're an assistant, all you see is the glory of what the trainer has, right? And probably the easiest time of my life was looking back now, the easiest time of my life was when I was an assistant horse trainer because I didn't have the worry of employees. I didn't have the overhead. I didn't have the stress of customers. I didn't have the stress of winning or losing or getting through a run. I just trained some horses and got paid and, might get yelled at every once in a while, might not. It's fine. Yep. You just go along. And then when you jump off and you have your own business and you go out and are trying to make a name for yourself, that's when the hard part really starts. Cause then you're like, oh, holy crap, we need a truck and trailer. How are we going to do, and I need to get horses in to pay the bills. How are we going to pay the bills if I don't have training horses, and keep those training horses happy or the owners happy. And the hard work started when we decided to sever the ties of the assistant trainer. There's lots of times where I'm like, man, maybe I'll just go back and be an assistant trainer. I'll be a really good assistant trainer. I mean, I can take direction really well most of the time.
and then like happen to branch out when you get your own place.
Yes.
Now, then the construction
awesome.
As you're also trying to train these horses and then employees and then structure where you're going and then a rig. And it seems like it, which is good though, because where you're at now, like then it has to be a little bit of like, this is pretty cool now, but then you go back in time. I was like, man, that there's so much because it's not like for me, like when I was rodeoing, I've watched a lot of guys that would win and then just spend their money. Yeah. And then for long at the end of their career, when they didn't make the finals, it was almost like they were living off credit. And then they didn't make the finals and basically their sandcastle just come tumbling down. And so like I was very, very aware of like, all right, when I win something, like I'm buying this. Yep. I'm buying it. Like I strategically planned like, okay, I can't rope up my buddy's places forever.
Yes.
So eventually I'm going to have to have my own dirt.
Yep.
Then when I get my own dirt, okay, then eventually I'm going to have to win enough or I need an arena.
Yep.
Then I'm going to need a barn.
Yep.
And then the very end is when I finally got a house.
Yep.
And, going through all that and juggling and then, it's a lot of stress because in order to be able to have your name, it's pretty hard to it's not have your own dirt.
No, and that's kind of the timeline of from when we were an assistant to when we went out on our own and the struggles and all the things with that. And then we finally get our own place. And then we built an arena before we had a house. I'm like, I had no house. We had an arena and a barn so the horses could live and we could work the horses and we had a place for all of them. We still didn't have a place to live. So then we had to go find a rental house. So then you're paying rent, right? And so then you see that money going out every month and you're just like, oh my gosh, will it end?
And I think every person that is a winner that like goes through this industry, I've noticed it almost a pattern just saying, we'll figure out where to live later.
Yeah.
But if we don't have a place to rope or train or this and that to make money, then it's not going to work.
No.
So
if you can't make the horses, you can't make money. And if you can't make money, you don't have a business. So you might as well, go to McDonald's because minimum wage is great.
Exactly. So what inspired, or how did the fall in your lap, or whatever how you'd want to categorize this, when you were on an award-winning documentary,
Mm-hmm.
Down the Fence?
Mm-hmm.
What year was that, and how did that come about?
So, I mean, it's been so long. I think it started around 2014. We started doing it, filming it in 2014, and a friend of mine actually started it from Washington. And when she first approached me about it, her idea, she was in love with the cow horse, and she really just wanted to promote cow horse and get cow horse out there in people's homes, and kind of to be a household name of the Western industry that nobody knew about. And how she wanted to do it was she wanted to have someone just starting out, which was me, someone from ranching family industry, which was Brandon Butters, obviously a legend, which is Doug Williamson, and then she had someone that was, in the business, training and doing all the things with a very successful business, which was Jake Telford. And those were the four of us. They had others in it, but those were the four of us that they followed around a lot, just to kind of grasp all the corners of how it kind of comes together. And yeah, I don't know how I don't know if you would call it luck. I think I did cuss MJ a lot through that year of 2014 with all the cameras, because I don't like cameras anyway, and they were following me around. And so it was tough, but I'm very thankful for it. I mean, it is amazing. Looking back on it now, it's incredible.
It had to have some kind of opportunity to it.
It did. At the time, it seemed, I was hoping that it was going to turn out to something, because it was really stressful. Is starting our own business. We just went out on our own from being an assistant trainer. So everybody, and I worked for one of the best in the industry. And so everybody, they're not, but you feel like you're a little bit judged, and you feel like the pressure's on you to make something of yourself. So you have that pressure, and then you put a camera on you that follows you around 24/7 through the highs and the lows. And it was a kind of a rough year when they videoed, made some lower level finals, but had a lot of struggles just in trying to find my program and myself, and just convince myself that this is where I was supposed to be, and this is what I was supposed to be doing. And so it's funny how it all came together, but at the time it was challenging, but they did a fabulous job, and it went, I think, more places than they dreamed of it going. And so that in itself, I'm incredibly thankful to have been a part of that project.
You feel like some of that's kind of reaped in a few awards of where you're at now? Because I know you had to have gained a lot of fans.
I think
with
so.
What you're doing and how hard you're trying, and how hard, you're kind of going against the current, as you're a female and male dominant industry. So I would, do you feel like that there's some things that kind of came about that?
I think so. I think it darn sure helped. I think there's a lot more people that I hope it inspired, that, no matter what you go through, like, if you just work hard and it was a very real documentary. So, I mean, I wear my emotions on my sleeve anyway. So I think maybe that helps some people, because, I mean, I'm an emotional roller coaster, and I didn't hide that on the camera. And so it was like, oh my gosh, she's
real.
Yeah, very real. And so, good, bad, or indifferent, I think it made people, maybe fall in love with the cow horse too, because of that. But it, yeah, I think it did help in a lot of ways. It really did. It was good.
I read old articles like out of the Spin to Win, back in the early 2000s and earlier in my career, and I've seen like some of the old jackpots that I've entered before, like they'll pop up on Facebook, or you'll see some of the rope ones that used to be videoed by, I think, Rodeo Video, that they'll come out, and you'll see, like, what I roped like in 2004. Or, 2010 and things like that. And when I watch it, it's just funny. Like, well, for one, the shirts, the style, there's things like that you're like, wow, things have changed. But when I read the articles, and I've seen like some of my other clinics from back then to what they are now, what do you see when you go back to that documentary that you've watched, that you feel like where you were at then to what you know now?
Oh man, some of those runs that I watch back that they have in there, I can't even actually watch, to be honest. I kind of cringe. I close my eyes. because it was a very large learning curve in my program. And so where I was going and what I think I wanted, and back to the training the horse and then following it up in the show pen, or backing your training in the show pen, there was a lot of rough patches, a lot. And so watching those old runs and that old stuff, I mean, I'm grateful for it. But it's really funny how my program has evolved in that time frame, and how I've hopefully smoothed things out and gotten a little more finesse to things, because there was rough spots, but I think it's all part of what you go through. From when you start your program, you figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And some of the stuff I see that I did then, I've thrown out the window now. I'm like, oh goodness, nope, that didn't work. And it's just a progression, right? It's a process, and I really have enjoyed looking. Even though I might cringe, I've enjoyed looking back at the process, because, I mean, we've all had to start somewhere.
What I think that I've told a lot of clinics and talked a lot about, and I've actually had to tell myself this too, because I'm always looking forward. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it pains you to watch.
Oh, it does.
Where you came from. But I've also changed my perspective a little bit nowadays of too, is like, there has to be a certain amount of time that you have to realize how far you've come.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't know how far you've come until you rewind and look at where you've been.
Yeah.
And to me, that's kind of cool where that was on film.
Yep.
To where you're like, all right, no matter how much I think I'm not there, I've came a long ways in a pretty short amount of time.
Yes.
I would say for yourself. Yeah,
a real short amount of time from when I started the cow horse. And I have to look back at it too and be thankful of where I'm at now, from where it's just like you said, from where I was in 2014 when we went out on our own, or 2015. 2014, I guess, was our first year. So it's just right at 10 years. And from where I was then to where we're at now, it's funny. I still have the struggles now. They're different struggles, and it's a different thought process, and you're in a different mental state because our expectations are higher. But you look back on it and you just kind of have to sit for a minute and take in and be thankful for what we have now, because it's been a road, and it's been a process, and it's in a good spot.
I've heard a quote that reminds me a lot of what you said. You'll trade expectations for appreciation.
Yes.
It's a game changer.
Yep.
There's a lot to it when you're striving to be the best.
Yep.
And it's hard to stay in the moment.
Yep.
That's a tough one.
It's hard to stay in the moment and take a step back and look. But every time I drive from the house that we have now to the barn, pretty thankful.
So with you and Anthony, that's kind of gone along this journey a lot together. Mm-hmm. When did you guys meet? Where in this journey did you guys... Is it a 49ers game? I know he's a 49ers fan. I didn't know if you stumbled down there and went to a game, because he's from California, right?
He is, yeah. No, never made it to California. We met in Texas when I started riding with Ron, and we both ended up at the same ranch.
So you guys were training together?
Yep.
Now, what brought him from California out here?
He went to work for Ron Rawls too.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you share the same passion.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
So that's a lot where Jackie and I, the attraction came was, for one, I mean, she's beautiful and extremely talented, but it was nice for me to be able to have something in common. Yeah. Because if you're going to do this, it's hard if one person's out on it.
No, you have to. I think you have to have common ground.
Or if they don't understand it.
Exactly. Even if they don't do it, but have the understanding and the common ground of what we're trying to go, because I think it's too hard of an industry. The Western industry in itself is too hard if the other person doesn't share some form of appreciation for it. Mm-hmm. Whether they do it or not, you know what I mean? They have to understand it.
Now, through your guys' training program, he takes on a lot of the 2-year-olds.
Yes.
Through the program, correct?
Yep. Yeah, he does. He's done a lot of the 2-year-olds for years with me, and that's what he did at Todd's and Ron's too. He showed a very little bit, but he doesn't really have much desire to show. It's not his thing, which is fine. And I don't have to fight over sharing my show horses with him, which is nice.
Well, and that would explain his patience.
Yeah, God.
Because the 2-year-olds, if you're messing with 2-year-olds all day, there's a lot of patience that requires.
We always joke around, and he always says that the 2-year-olds can't handle me till like midsummer, late summer. Then they can handle me, because Otherwise, they're like, they're not. He'll say, "Oh, they're not ready for you yet. You're not allowed on that one." Because I'll be like, "Hey, let me ride that one." He's like, "No, not yet."
Ain't got them air proof yet.
Yeah, he's like, "No." That's exactly what he says. He's like, "They're not air proof yet."
I like it. It's wisdom.
Yeah. Or if he lets me on him, he'll be like, "Okay, that's good. Get off."
That's funny. So once you went the ranks of that, the Down the Fence documentary, I mean, you're getting noticed. I mean, the one thing about it, sometimes they say, any publicity is good publicity. So you're getting noticed. You're starting to go through the ranks. What do you think it was? What was the run? What was that run to where it felt like this was what made your career, or like, okay, I finally got to a certain spot where all of a sudden I can do this. Like, holy crap, like the stars aligned. Yeah. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah,
what horse were you riding, and where was it at?
It was Snaffle Bit Fraternity 2015. I was riding Plain Right for Garth and Amanda Gardner and PW. Yeah, and I made the finals on them. That was my second year making the Snaffle Bit finals. I'd made it in 2014 for the first time. I made the open finals, and then that was my second time making the open finals. And PW was a good horse. We can't take anything away from him. He wasn't the easiest horse, but he was fast. And he drew a really fast cow down the fence, and it was able to keep up with him. And we put a really, really good run together. And that run was the moment I think that I was like, okay, I'm okay.
That was a 228?
Yep.
That was it?
Yeah.
Pull it up on your phone.
Okay.
So this is what I want. This is what attracted me so much to what you guys do, is because I watch this on YouTube. And it's on YouTube, right?
Yep.
What's it under?
It is under
so everyone can find it.
I have it under Plain Right 2015 Snaffle Bit Fraternity, ridden by Erin Taormino.
And so this is what's, go ahead and push play and hold it close to your this is what probably maybe half the stands is full, maybe, in Reno.
Yeah.
And when I'm telling you, this is the cool stuff, because when she gets this sucker rolling, this crowd is electric. This is what's fun about watching the fence work. 221. So walk us through the run.
Okay. So when I came in here, Jake Telford just marked a 21, and he was sitting in the lead for the Snaffle Bit. And I mean, it was a really good run that Jake had, and so my thought was just to, honestly, I had no other thought than to work the cow they kicked out and not try to do anything other than just work the cow, and that's what we're started to do here.
And you start giving this sucker the head start, and now he's going. Oh yeah. And then just engulfs him again.
Everything in this run just set up perfect, and this horse was spot on this night.
Sucker's got some wheels. When you watch this, you're going to see how fast this sucker could run.
That crowd felt great that night.
Yeah. And your announcer, oh, I love that.
Yeah, Darren, he nailed it.
Lights him up. So as Anthony's giving you a high five on the way out, that had to be that feeling there.
It was awesome. Yeah, it felt awesome.
And then when they go ahead and knock the score out, everyone's anticipating how good this one was.
Yeah. And I think at that time that was the highest fence score at the Snaffle Bit Fraternity. I'm pretty sure.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Like I get goosebumps. Like it's not cold in here.
No, it's not.
That's what I'm talking about when I'm, for me being outside of your industry. Coming into it, like the electricity and just how much fun these things are to watch. I'm telling you, if you guys get a chance to go to any of these fraternities, like start early.
Yeah.
Because to get a ticket ain't easy.
No. And I mean, this horse show for 3-year-olds, the finals is unbelievable because these 3-year-olds, we ask a lot of them, you know, and then the other event that you got to go to because it's not for the faint of heart is World's Greatest. 4 events with those horses. It's just those horses, we ask them for their life and they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
But that is, you know, you can see, I remember when we all watched that here at the house, and I don't know how many times we ran and watched it again.
Yeah, I think I had to send it to Jackie.
It was so fascinating. We're watching, and that's where we roped the BFI before.
Yep.
And, you know, that thing was only half full.
Yeah.
And it sounded like it was
full.
packed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
no, it's awesome.
The guy, you know, we don't even hear that team roping. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I know team roping is not a very electrifying event, but you know, there's times the BFI has been packed, and I don't know if it's ever gotten that loud.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just how exciting that stuff is.
Yeah,
yeah, that had to be the time where you're like, all right.
Yeah, that felt good.
Some relief.
It was a huge relief. It really was, being the second year and to make the finals and then back it up with that. It just, you know, I mean, there's so many trials and tribulations with what you do, with what anybody does in the Western industry, but with what we do in the 3 events and young horses and to have something come together like that, it kind of solidifies that I made the right decision.
Yeah.
So it was well worth it.
Yeah, that horse right there had some wheels.
He's so fast.
Son of a gun. Yeah, and you could see it because that cow was not slow, and he engulfed him.
Yeah, so fast.
That was so cool to watch. What are some of the horses that you've had, like you feel like your career horses, like the ones that, I mean, totally like there was something to that horses. The horses that you've had, the breeding, what you look for now. What did you learn from, say, PW to where you're at with Skeeter?
So probably some of the better horses I've had. I had a gelding, Pepto's Last Bet, which he's, bless his heart, is now my practice rope horse. But he taught me a lot. Great horse. I won a fair amount on him. Hazardous material, 100%. Probably, he's probably the best horse I've ever had. He's just been great. I won the Stallion Stakes on him. He's over 200,000 now. Skeeter. Yep. He's a horse I just did World's Greatest on. He's a bimetallic cat out of Scooter's Daisy Dukes. Linda Mars owns him, and we have his first babies on the ground actually this year. I have a 3-year-old by him that is really nice. I love him. I'm so excited. Skeeter's probably he's probably hands down been to date my number one. I have a gelding called Bad to the Boon that I've had a lot of success on, and he just aged out, and so that means he's a brattle horse now. So he would be, you know, eligible to do World's Greatest and all that stuff when his time comes. I don't even know how much Tattoo has won, but he's getting up there. He's probably 150,000, 160,000, somewhere in there now. That horse has just been really consistent for me. He's by Pepto Boone Small out of a Bet on Me mare named Bet on Murata. And Keith and Kathy Pinkley own him. That's a funny story. That horse, we were partners on him. I bought him as a yearling. And he was really ugly, and I didn't pay very much for him. And I think Keith and Kathy were really relieved because when they saw him for the first time, his head was bigger than his body. And it was the first horse deal that I had done with them. And they come out to the ranch and they look at him, and you could just see the look on their face because they did halter horses a little bit, and they were just like, oh my God, what did we just do? And I'm like, no, I promise. I've had 2 of his full siblings. He's going to be great. I promise. And they're like, oh, I hope you're right, because this thing was so ugly.
And how much pressure was that too? Yeah,
it was a little bit of pressure, but he's hands down been he's phenomenal. I've made every finals on him, and I think he was 4th or 5th at the Snaffle Bit Fraternity, and he's been a great horse.
Do you feel like there's a certain breeding that kind of fits your style?
You
feel like you found like this is what breeding that this horse for their temperament or their feel and things like that? Because so many people ask about, you know, what you're looking for. It's hard to explain feel. It is, you know, and I don't know. We always all have breeding that intrigues us that we want to lean towards. But at the end of the day, for me, I really want to say that I try to take them all as individuals. And for the cow horse and doing 3 events, it really is an individual sport. The horse might have off breeding and just be a freak of an athlete. It can handle the pressure of the reining, the fence work, and the cutting, you know.
And so, yeah, like 100%, there are breedings a lot, or like lines that we lean towards that, you know, will catch our eye maybe more than others. But at the end of the day, if someone wants to send me a horse that looks like an athlete and they can do all the things, I don't care how they're bred. If they can do their job, it doesn't matter to me. So
Just looking for that horse that lets the horse show you what they know.
yeah.
That's your motto, right?
Yep.
That's a pretty cool one.
Yeah.
And that, you know, like in the team roping world, I remember we would look for a horse that they could run, because for as a header, you would have to, that horse has to be able to outrun that steer to get caught up.
Right.
Well, then, you know, then you go too much bloodlines of run, then they're a little hot headed.
Yep.
Maybe their stride's too long.
Yep.
So then you're trying to find, okay, what can run, but then shorten up the stride.
Sure.
It's almost like a mad science in one way to where, and then all of a sudden, like I say, and then all of a sudden this maybe one of the greatest, like Walt.
Yeah.
I don't even know what he was bred like.
Yeah.
And I don't even think anyone really followed that breeding.
Yeah.
And so it's there's certain things that I think horses have had some attributes where they're really good, but on the head. And I'm really curious to see what the horse show fraternities do.
Yeah.
To where if they start finding some common bloodlines, that head horse material, you know, they've done in the barrels pretty good, where, you know, they have the size, they have the stride, and, you know, that's one of the things we've had a couple of them, and some of them Jackie's trained. She trains way better than I do. And we went down that route a few times on finding some run bred horses, and they were trained perfectly. They went off your hand great. They knew their job, but they just didn't have the feel.
Right.
They didn't have it where they could shorten up and match the same stride as a steer, where they could, you know, and some of it and it's almost sometimes a feel you can't teach. They have to have a certain.
Yep. Yeah. And anymore in what we all do, but, you know, in what we do, they either have it or they don't. And, you know, before maybe a few years ago, you could, you know, maybe have one that was a little limited in one event, but were really good in the other two events, and you could get by. But anymore, you got to have one. You have to have one that runs and stops like a reiner. Obviously not the reining style. You know what I mean? Our horses are different than the reiners, and obviously they're different than the cutters, but they have to have the ability to run and stop good and turn around and lope pretty circles. And they also have to be able to cut. And, you know, they're not going to be as good as a straight cutter, but they have to have the ability to do it and do it nice, you know, and then they got to be fast enough,
and they got to have the speed
and haul ass down the
go
fence,
down the fence
and be able to take the handle, but then think for themselves on a cow to go down the fence. And so, you got to have a pretty special individual. You can't stub your toe anywhere. You're going to find yourself watching the finals.
Yeah. Which anybody who's ever roped before, that's the hardest one, is to be watching the short round from the fence.
Yeah.
That one's the toughest one.
It's tough.
So, you know, we do so much in team roping to where we're basically, that's what we do. And that's all our horses got to do most of the time. You'll see a few horses that you can head and heel on, but for the most part, ours is just specialized in one event.
Yep.
Where when you go to the world's greatest, they have to learn how to do 4 events.
Yes.
And so when, say, Skeeter might need a little bit of work with going down the fence, how do you manage being able to make sure, okay, this horse has to have a little bit of schooling on this, but then I also can't wear him out to where I don't have enough horse to where maybe I have to go to steer stop. How do you manage your horse?
Well, hopefully, so by the time we get to World's Greatest, and, you know, we're looking at, they're going to be, as a rule, they're 7 years old and older. So, by the time you get to that age, hopefully they know their jobs and they're pretty comfortable in all 3 events. And so if you have a spot in an event, be it the reining or the cutting or the fence work or whatever, you can touch on that spot, but it's not this huge ordeal to where you have to worry about overdoing it. You know the spots, you know where you have to maybe focus on, and then basically you have to trust your training and know it's going to be there and just allow it to be there. Because with 4 events, you're only going to have so much horse. There's only so much you can do, you know. I know the night before the finals, they let us, we were able to school our horses in the Coliseum. And so, I mean, the first event is cutting on Saturday morning, but we're reining Friday night. And so you have to figure out what you need to do with that horse at that time to school him for the reining, but leave enough horse for Saturday, because if you use it all up Friday night, you're gonna have nothing. So, I mean, I schooled him in the reining, and I worked on a few things that I felt like I needed to make sure we could get through, and it was good, and he was relaxed. And I spent a lot of time kind of chilling him out and walking around in the middle. You know, sometimes he would get a little nervous through the middle of the arena. So I'd run through the gate, and I did that stuff. And then I let him settle in the circles and made sure he wasn't overthinking anything. And then we went, and as soon as we were done with reining, I went and pulled his shoes and got ready for the herd work the next morning. So yeah, you kind of learn that horse and their weaknesses and maybe their strong points, and you touch on the weaknesses and have faith that the strong points will actually be there and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's like nothing that, you know, in the rodeo industry, like I say, most of these horses are specialized in one event, and that's a phenomenal athlete, what it's capable of doing mentally and physically. You know, for those 4 events that long.
They get so tired too, you know, and they get so tired of being messed with, because we pull them out, we school them, we put them away, we pull them out, we take them to the spa, we put them away, we pull them out, we maybe Magna wave them, and we put them away. So those horses, they have to have a good mental status too, because they get messed with a lot, probably to the point where they just kind of want to tell us to leave them alone a little bit. But I mean, so you have to be really careful on how much you do and how picky you get, and then just trust the process.
Yeah. I have earlier this week, when you decided you was going to come on the podcast for today, I always like going out there and on social media and asking questions. You know, what would you want to hear? You had a lot of really good questions. Because I always love getting a little bit going outside of what I know.
Yep.
And so the questions that were getting asked, like, man, those were really good questions.
Yep.
But one of them I really enjoyed too was Audrey Kramer from Cody, Wyoming. She's a young aspiring breakaway roper, but I know they also do a lot with the shows as well. But she wanted to know, if you were to go back to your 20-year-old self, what would you be able to tell yourself then that you know now?
I would probably tell myself to not stress as much, and just know that, you know, when you have a passion, and if you work hard, that you will get to where you want to be. Because I think my 20-year-old self probably stressed a lot of where I was going and where I was supposed to go and what I was supposed to be doing. Because you don't know, we all want that crystal ball, but we don't have it. And I know I stressed a lot if I was making the right decision, or if I was wasting my time. You know, I think I spent a lot of energy on worrying about whether I was wasting my time or if I was where I needed to be. And so if I could go back and tell my 20-year-old self, I would just tell myself to probably calm down a little bit and just trust that I was on the right path, and that my passion was right and I was headed in the right direction.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, it's so hard too, especially at that age, because you're just trying to find out what you should know.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times you just don't find that out until you either screw it up or you win.
Yeah.
And then you win, like, okay, what created that? And when I lost, all right, now how do I fix it?
Exactly.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Nothing harder than going through the process of learning how to win.
Exactly.
It's not for everybody.
It is not for the faint of heart.
Exactly.
To know that losing is okay, and you're going to learn something from it, and it'll be okay, and just carry on to the next one. Yeah.
Oh, man, tough. I'm so excited to watch how far you've come, and it's been fun to watch. And me and Jackie, we're just so excited. I'm so excited, just the fact that we get to go watch. You know, we kind of have a horse in the race every time you go. Like, we know that girl. Yeah. You know, and
I'm roping already. I mean, I haven't quit.
So much fun having you out here roping too. It's
no.
I'll bet now when you come rope, like, it's got to be a little bit more of a stress reliever. You did it.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so hard the one before, because the stress was so great, because they're so large. I mean, it was the stress you had amongst yourself was almost blinding. It
was, you know, and I put it on myself, but it was because, I mean, for any of us that do this, the expectations that we have for ourselves is more than what anybody else has for us. We put so much pressure on ourselves or I do. I guess I shouldn't speak for anybody else. I put so much pressure on myself to be here, you know, when if I backed off a little bit, it would probably would be better, but that's just who I am. It's not going to happen.
Well, it's what's made you great.
Yeah. So,
you know, you keep pushing. And that, to me, that was my hardest when I was going back for myself too, was like when I would try too hard and force it to happen instead of letting it happen.
Yeah.
And that's where I think now that once you've made the finals now there, to where it's almost like a stress reliever. Then you almost start feeling that a little bit less, where you can start letting.
Well, I know,
happen.
like even from picking up the rope. I mean, I picked it up the next day after the finals, and roped the dummy a little bit. But even it's funny now that World's Greatest is over. Before, when I would pick up the rope, if I roped and I missed anything, it was like, great. This is. I'm done. I'm done. I can't do this.
Suck.
This is horrible.
This is gonna be terrible. Why did I enter?
Why did I enter? No, yeah, like why did I enter? This is terrible. And now I pick up the rope,
Charlie
and I was just
Jackie, you guys are full of crap. This is not easy.
This is a bad idea. Why did I let anybody talk me into this? And now I pick it up, and I'll just kind of be messing around and trying different things that I can think more clearly. It's funny. As soon as those finals are over, I can think so much more clearly when I'm swinging a rope. It feels so much better already. So I'm so excited to see how it progresses now that I've done it. Did it the first year. It was a mild train wreck, which is fine. The second year I made the finals. I still don't remember in the finals walking down the tunnel and loping in to the roping chute. I don't even know if there was a roping chute at the end of that Will Rogers Coliseum. I'm sure there was, because I came out of it. But I'm just saying, the pressure of the crowd. I mean, you look up and there's people everywhere. And I have this thing in my hand.
What is this glove?
And like I think my fingers are a little numb.
I don't wear a glove.
My hand is tingling. Like, why can't I feel my hand all of a sudden? Like, what do I do with this hand? What, like, I don't know. No, I mean, it wasn't quite that bad, but a little bit. So
it's one of those things when you get done, you're like, thank God my inner monologue's not where anyone else can hear it.
I'm so glad nobody can hear my thought process right now. So that gets all done, and then I'm like, okay, well, last year, the first year after the World's Greatest, I didn't pick up a rope for a while. I was like, I'm done with this. I need a break. And as soon as we got home, I was like, oh, am I gonna?
Where you called the next day?
Yeah, roping.
Aaron wants to come rope.
Yeah, we're roping. Yeah, we're gonna do it.
Love it.
I'm gonna remember walking down that tunnel for the finals next year.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember my first run of the NFR.
Yeah.
I nodded and I was pulling up my rope at the back end after they pulled my rope off. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens.
Wild.
I mean, I've walked through that gate 1,000 times, and it's the same gate, but I had a rope in my hand, and suddenly it's a different gate and a different arena, and I don't really know the horse I'm riding.
The cool part is it makes you know you're alive. When you got something that's stressing you out, that's got
your adrenaline.
The cool part is you've got a dang good strength in those other events.
Yeah.
And this is what's kind of fun is it does stretch a person out where you never stop growing.
No, I love it, and I'm addicted to it. Like I really love it. It's fun. It's a good outlet for me. So, yeah.
Well, I'm excited to have you and Jackie are going to be doing a clinic together.
Yes.
Here at the house. This is, I think, the fourth time I believe you guys have done this.
Yeah, I think so. I think this will be the fourth time.
So you and Jackie, my wife, I helped for a little while, but it seemed like it was too long, and it seemed like it was way easier for just. And I'm pretty sure you and Jackie were the attraction of the whole bid anyway. And so I bowed out. I'll go get the beer and the food at Hard 8.
Perfect.
So you and Jackie do a one-day lesson.
Yep.
Where you do the horsemanship side of it, and Jackie does breakaway.
Yep.
And so you guys do it for my foundation, for Liberty and Loyalty Foundation. And you guys, we auction this off. And I think it's been the fourth year. If not, definitely 3.
It's definitely 3. I think it's 3. It might be 3.
It might be 3, but this may be the 4th year that you guys are going to be doing it for this year. So
yes.
Making sure you guys do it, because this is one of our biggest items.
Yeah. No, well, I'm entered.
It sells every year. It's been right around $4,500.
That's amazing.
Somebody gives for this to come ride with you.
That's
girls.
amazing.
Like,
and it's fun.
Cool
we have a
that?
blast.
Oh yeah, we have a blast. That's why I thought if I back out, it'll be way more fun.
Yeah.
Time to get Creed.
Oh.
I have an alarm on my clock so I don't forget my kid at school. How cool is that? That's awesome. Good parenting, isn't it?
That's amazing.
And so 100% of this goes towards charity. And so we've helped this going on this year will actually pass over $1 million.
Nice.
Where we've helped first responders and military. And this will be our 5th house we've helped build for guys that got blown up. And also what we do for the law enforcement. And so anyways, what you guys do does a lot for the guys and for our military and first responders. So thank you for that. And it's a lot of fun.
It's fun. We have a blast.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the hardest part's getting Jackie and I coordinated to answer text messages to put a date down to get it done.
Because it's hard to, that's why I thought it'd be so much easier when I bow out too, because to try to get my schedule, your schedule, and Jackie's is even harder. So between the two of you, especially in the springtime when the weather's good, there is a little bit of a downtime. Yeah. And these people bought it from Durango.
That's awesome.
Driving all the way from Durango.
No way.
To come hang out. Yeah.
That's going to be so much fun. Yeah.
I appreciate you for what you girls do. It's like I told Jackie, like no more lessons, no more clinics. Yeah. Because she gave me that opportunity when I was rodeoing. My job was to go win and to go rope and to make sure I stayed sharp, where she did a lot of lessons and clinics.
Sure.
So now it's like, all right, I'll do that. You go win.
You go win.
And so this is the one time where I'm like, all right, I'm going to use you for a little bit here. Yep. You're serving your country.
But it's at home.
But at least it's
at
home.
And it's with your best pal. So what the heck?
So and you two make it awesome too, where you can tell it's fun. Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the attractions about it too, is how much fun you guys have. So so you do clinics throughout the year? I do. How do we follow you? How do we find out where those are at and when? So I have done like one or so a year. I don't do that many because the same thing, like with our schedule and us being gone, our shows are getting so long lately that it's hard to find a weekend to where I can warrant being away from the horses I leave at home, the snaffle bitters and the 2-year-olds and stuff. So I post a lot of my stuff on social media, on Facebook, on Erin Taormino Performance Horses. I have a website, but I don't put a lot of my clinics and stuff on there because I don't update it as much as I should, if we're being real. Well, the dates are hard to find when when you're as busy as y'all are. But. Yeah. But a lot of my stuff is on my my Facebook page or Instagram. And that's how we follow you too. Yes. Along the year to keep up with you. Yep. Facebook and Instagram, Erin Taormino Performance Horses. Awesome. Yep. And I'm so happy for you. It's been so fun to watch. Proud of you. Thank you. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks for having me. It's been fun. Thank you. Kick your ass. You bet.